For quite some time I've been thinking about getting equipment from the garage. One of those pieces of equipment that I've been thinking about is a drill mill such as this one. Now, I was talking to my mate in Wellington about it, and he goes, well, you can have mine for free. So that necessitated a trip to Wellington, and I picked this up and brought it back. Now, I have actually used this before when I was living in Wellington, and it suited my purposes quite well. I haven't really changed what I'm doing, so I see it as being quite a useful bit of gear in the garage here. Now, this thing, even if you take it off the stand, was a little bit taller than what I was happy with standing upright in my trailer coming from Wellington to Auckland, especially given the state of the roads at the moment. So part of doing the transport was that I actually took this whole upper bit off and laid it down in the trailer, leaving the bottom bit with the slide and everything as a separate piece also lying in the trailer. Now, what I didn't realize was that under 3 of these bolts to hold the column onto the base were 3 little shims. Now, I never noticed that until after I'd dismantled it and the shims had fallen on the ground. So now they were to get the spindle, the bit that has this magnetic clamp on it, to get this spindle square to the bed. Now, I've messed that up by misplacing the shims or getting the shims in the wrong place, or just by dropping the shims out. So what I'm in the process of doing is what I think the term is called tramming the mill. So at the moment I'm looking at just how much error there is between various parts of the bed and the spindle when it's rotated at various positions around. And what I've done, just so I know where I'm at, because I can't remember these things, is I've actually put bits of masking tape on and just written the number on it. So at the front here it's 0.1 millimeter higher than at the back, which I've labelled as 0. And you can see when you read the numbers going around that it progresses up to this 0.1. And you can see that around this side as well. So this, because this is higher in the front here, that tells me that this needs to be tilted back a little bit. Now the way to do that is to put a shim under this side and that side, and that will tilt it back. So that's what I'm going to do. At the moment it's 0.1 millimeter. Now once I've done that, I'll bring you back and we'll have a look at how much this DTI gets displaced with the new shims in the front. Just happens I have some shim material here from probably 25-30 years ago, so never throw anything out, you never know when you'll need it. So this is a piece of shim that was under one of the bolts. As you can see, it's 10th thou according to my calipers anyway. So they just have it in the corner next to the bolts, so nothing particularly flash the way it's done. Now, the shim material I've got is just in sheets, so it's just a matter of cutting from the sheet something similar to this. So the two sizes have got 3 thou and 5 thou. So, probably just try the 3 thou to start with, just to see how that works. I cleaned up the shim material and then measured it with the calipers. Turns out it's actually 4 thou. I then cut these 2 little shims which are going to be installed on the mill. Alright, I've gone ahead and added a shim under these 2 bolts. Now that should tilt the column back a little bit, which it seems to have done. So I have readjusted the DTI, and at the back here I've set it to 0. A little bit hard to see, a little bit hard to move, but it's 0 at the back. And then as we rotate it around, Previously it was 0.05 here, still reading 0. Was 0.06 there, still reading 0. Still reading 0. And by this stage it was starting to get up to 0.08. Previously, still reading 0. So it's a little bit hard to video and turn at the same time, but at this point it was getting up to 0.9 or even 0.09 or 0.1 millimeter. And now we can see as we come down the right hand side of the machine, we're starting to get a bit of a reading there now. So putting the shims in the front has tilted the column back, but it's also tilted it off to the side. I've tried really swinging on the bolts on the bottom here to try and tilt the column one way or the other without success. So it's not just a simple matter of putting a shim under these two bolts, or is it the other side? I can't really have to figure it out, to lean the column to the left or right, because I have an extra shim in the front on one side as well, which will tilt the machine back. The other thing is that when I cut out the shims from the shim stock and cleaned it all down and then measured it properly with it all sort of cleaned off, it was actually 4 thou. So yeah, so it's 4 thou shims I've added to it. I might just try a couple of shims in the side to tilt it left or right. I've got to figure that out. I decided to try a single shim in the back right hand corner with the result that you can see on the DTI here as I've rotated it around the bed. So all up there's about a total of 0.03 millimeter difference from one location to another. So I'm happy enough with that. I'm not going to mess with it anymore. The problem with it is if you have it too far out, when you have a cutter which is doing a wide swing like a fly cutter, it will dig a bit of a trench as you go along rather than creating a flat surface. So the closer to square that the spindle is to the work, the flatter the surface finish will be. So it's worth trying a bit harder to get things just right. Too late, I ended up putting a rag around the bottom of this little clamp, so I got quite a good sized dent in the top of my head from this damn thing, but never mind, it'll heal up. Okay, see ya.